training on designing and implementing policies that promote the nexus between peace, security, and development to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs in Africa. This is Module 4, New Findings on the Nexus. It's probably important to note that this is based on the OSA document. The content, objectives, process and outcome indicators, NEXUS survey data, modeling of complex adaptive systems, results of ECA sub-regional studies. Introduction. Africa represents only about 16% of the world's population. Yet, according to the Institute of Security Studies, more than a third of the world's conflicts are currently taking place there. Many African countries have weak or virtually non-existent policies, institutions, and development processes that fail to interact with each other or to consider the links between security, justice, and human rights that can help prevent conflicts from becoming violent. Therefore, sustainable development experts assign low SDG performance in Africa. This course aims to share the summary findings and key lessons from the Office of the Special Advisor on Africa, and that is a United Nations office, study through analysis of process and outcome indicators for all the SDGs by country, sub-region, and for the African continent. Analysis of NEXUS survey data, modeling of complex adaptive systems, presentation of key findings from the ECA sub-regional studies. Objectives. The ultimate goal is to assist African member states to promote the design and implementation of linkage-based policies and strategies in their national development policies, highlight African perspectives on the link between human rights, humanitarian efforts, peace, and development, assess the level of awareness and understanding of the nexus concept among African policymakers, provide tools to strengthen an integrated approach in designing and implementing along the peace, security, development, and prosperity nexus, strengthen the use of interlinkages to accelerate the implementation of Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063 to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. This slide shows process/outcome indicators measured in relative improvement. The African countries are so listed, and the best process indicator, the worst process indicator, the best outcome indicator, as well as the worst outcome indicator listed. It's best that students take a closer look at this slide. Of course, the correlation matrix with significance values in terms of the outcome indicators for the 17 SDGs are equally analyzed in terms of correlation. This is available in details in this slide 6. Analysis of the SDG process and result indicators continued. Positive correlations, moderate and highly significant, zero hunger, that is SDG 2, and inequality reduction. The significance is very high in terms of positive correlation between the two. The same thing, gender equality and inequality reduction, SDG 5 and SDG 10. Low significance correlations you find between good health, SDG 3, and clean water and sanitation, SDG 6. Quality education, SDG 4, and clean water and sanitation, SDG 6. Good health, SDG 3, and sustainable cities, SDG 11. Quality education, SDG 4, and sustainable cities, SDG 11. Gender equality, SDG 5, and partnerships, SDG 17. Clean water and sanitation, SDG 6, and clean and affordable energy, SDG 7. Clean water and sanitation, SDG 6, and peace, justice, and strong institutions, SDG 16. Peace, justice, and strong institution has a low significance correlation with sustainable cities. Peace, justice, and strong institutions equally have low significance correlation with life underwater. No poverty, SDG 1, and industry, innovation, and infrastructure, SDG 9, have low significance in terms of positive correlation. No poverty depends on good health, plus education, plus clean and affordable energy, plus peace, justice, and strong institutions. Zero hunger depends on reducing inequality. Good health and education are positively linked to clean water and sanitation and sustainable cities. Gender equality depends on reducing inequality plus partnerships. Clean water and sanitation depends on clean and affordable energy plus peace, justice, and strong institutions. Peace, justice, and strong institutions depends on sustainable cities plus life underwater. The NEXUS survey data was carried out amongst voluntary participants who agreed to fill up the online survey. 33 African countries were represented with a majority coverage of African states. 60% of African states, African countries were represented. The NEXUS survey data, in terms of the breakdown of the participants, you had 33% being civil society stroke NGOs and 67% coming out of government sector. Sector representation. Those who are involved in development, 8%, planning, 42% in terms of respondents, environment, 13%, national coordination, architecture, 17%, education, 8%, national security, 4%, finance, 8%. The question, do you know the new way of working in terms of the interlinkages or nexus orientation? 23% were unfamiliar, 35% were familiar, but you had 14% largely unfamiliar, 20% neither familiar or unfamiliar, and 8% largely familiar. Frequency of the Nexus approach in discussions. Sometimes, those who chose sometimes were 29%, frequently 26%, always 2%, never 14%, infrequently 29%. The question, have you ever encountered the term nexus or interlinkages in the following issues? The pictorial representation is in the data of the 4 pillars: peace and security, development, humanitarian work, human rights, and how people have reacted in terms of whether they had been somehow aware of the encountered nexus or interlinkages. What association do you have with the term nexus? The responses are also shown in slide 12 in terms of those who are neutral on the issue appearing to be more positive as well as very positive. The relevance of governance in promoting a nexus approach, 54% suggested that governance is very, extremely relevant in promoting a nexus approach. This is followed by 28% that suggests that it is relevant, and 16% that says neutral, and 2% not relevant. And of course, what would you rank in terms of importance for addressing the capacity gaps and challenges? The responses are there: strengthening political will, strengthening capacity of national systems, strengthening capacity of local systems, consistent communication, collaboration, and coordination to overcome divides, mainstreaming anticipatory approach for the longer term, policy development and implementation, adequate and appropriate financing. I would like to point out at this stage that Professor Alain Schudin, who carried out the survey for OSA, used a slightly different orientation to the situational quadruple nexus. he was almost treating governance as another pillar of its own, as opposed to governance residing in the environment of implementation. And that is why that's where I differ a little from Professor Alain Shudin, because governance is just a part of the problem that we face with respect to being able to implement the quadruple nexus. Continuing with the Nexus survey data, the role of each pillar in promoting the achievement of each SDG is shown very clearly in terms of the 17 SDGs listed, and each of the 4 pillars equally analyzed. Well, like I pointed out a little earlier, Professor Shudin was treating governance almost as another pillar, as opposed to the environmental situation of each country, of which governance is then just one part. Because for me, when you look at it, the external dynamics is very, very crucial for most of the weak African countries. Nexus survey data continuing, we also look at the what do you call it? We also look at the 17 SDGs and how they rate, in your opinion, which SDG is most important for your country to work towards and achieve. And that the responses are very, very clear in the slide 15. How would you rate your country's performance on each of the SDGs? Very poor, poor, 50-50, good, very good. You find that the result is shown from the data that looked at 33 countries, and it's indicative to look at. Rank which of the following is most important to accelerate achievement of the SDGs in your country. 1 equals most important, 5 is least important, and graphically the colors applying to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are indicated in trying to figure out which is the most important pillar to accelerate development. Like I said, when you look at it, he's treating governance as another pillar. Then prioritization of aspirations for the Africa we want. He did the same thing. 1 is most important, 7 is least important. What are the main obstacles to achieving the Africa we want? 1 is positively critical, and 11 is negatively critical. And with the different colors attached to that, we see the importance of all the different factors that he put forward, from conflict, instability, and insecurity, social and economic inequalities, including gender, organized crime and international terrorism, drugs trade, poor management of diversities, religious extremism, ethnicism, and corruption, failure to harness the demographic dividend, escalation of Africa's disease burden, climate risks and natural disasters, external shocks, e.g., caused by global market forces, lack of financing and illicit financial flows, political challenges, external interference. Then what are the main obstacles that prevent your country from achieving the SDGs 1 to 11, following along the same line? What offers the greatest opportunity to accelerate the achievement of the SDGs in your country? He has 1 to 10 here with the colors representative. 1 is positive opportunities and 10 negative in terms of opportunities. Another one is, in your opinion, in your country, what effect has COVID-19 had? Of course, the figures guide us to see the responses of the respondents on the 5, more or less 5 pillars, because he has included governance. Then he comes up with the complex adaptive systems and performance gaps, in which he weighted the pillars and their interconnections, how they are interconnected. And you can see that very clearly in terms of the very high, the thickness of governance in all this. Human rights and the SDG 4, links between the NEXUS pillars and the SDGs, SDG 1 and NEXUS 5 pillars, how they all relate in terms of importance. He charted out in what he called the complex adaptive systems and performance gaps. And of course, he equally puts the complex adaptive systems and performance gaps into a pictorial format that is easier to equally look at, and ranked them. Governance being number 1, peace being 2, development being 3, human rights being 4, humanitarian being 5. Of course, we're still dealing with the complex adaptive systems, size of the nodes according to the CAS model. The importance assigned to the SDGs in this model by the size of the nodes for each. The larger it is, the more significant it is. You can take a look at these. So weighting of the SDGs in promoting linkages between the pillars. The SDGs are equally listed and weighted in terms of how they relate to the pillars. Actual and perceived performance on the SDGs. He looked at opinions and performance, lower opinion of progress in the African region than actual improvement. Opinions are higher than progress made. Then SDG corrected improvement, lowest adjusted improvement, as well as lowest performance. Now, challenges and opportunities. The challenges that he puts forward include budget support, political will, conflicts, instability and insecurity, social and economic inequalities. The opportunities, good governance, promote development and consolidate peace, continent's resources, richness in natural resources and human capital, youth. Africa's youth population is growing rapidly and is expected to double to over 830 million by 2050. This working age population represents an opportunity to boost productivity and facilitate inclusive growth. Conclusion. The strongest pillar in the study of the interconnections is governance. The most strongly associated pillars are peace and development. Most important SDGs are eradication of poverty, quality education, good health and well-being. Even though Africa is a continent full of potential, there are still much needed to be done to successfully implement the SDGs and Agenda 2063. Thank you very much for your attention.